So, this is the fourth time trying to re-record the whole part of the Fazbear Frights timeline, because the first time the video got deleted, the first time the video cut off, because it was in part 1, it was supposed to be in part 1. The second time, the video got deleted, and then the third time is that my mother interrupted me. Just like, go! So I'm going to have to say this thing for the fourth time. Ha! This will not include any of the first 9 stories. The Stichverse stingers, which are basically the epilogues. The Man in Room 1280, In the Flesh, or The Real Jake, the first 9 stories being Into the Pit, To Be Beautiful, Count the Ways, which are the stories of Into the Pit, and then you have Fetch, Only Freddy, and Had Stock, which are the 3 stories of Fetch. And then you have 1:35 a.m., Room for One More, and The New Kid, which are the 3 stories of 1:35 a.m. This is the Fazbear Frights timeline. First event in 1983 is Step Closer and Dance With Me. Those 2 are practically at the same time. They could be one after the other, but they're 1983, even with advanced technology. Whew. The second story, Coming Home, in 1986. It's 1986 because because it's taking place a year after the Missing Children's incident, but we only really get the date of the Missing Children's incident from the Silver Eyes trilogy and Into the Pit, but pretty important to use that date. I'm just going to use that date for pretty much everything, because that's just going to be our date for the Missing Children's incident in general, and okay. Third event is Sergio's Lucky Day, and it's in 1995, which 1995, because it's 10 years. It's the 10th anniversary celebration. In the story, the main character, Sergio, has his 10th anniversary celebration of graduating. It might have been college or could have been high school. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but it was in 1985 when that graduation happened. It was most likely college graduation. The fourth event in 2034 is what we found. It's 2034 based on the fact that that is the day that I have for FNAF 3. Because FNAF 3 is 30 years after FNAF 1, which is 2004, because phone calls say that 20 years after. But you know why FNAF 1 is 2004. I'm not going to go. If you've seen part 1, you'll know. really don't want to do a part 3. You ready? Okay. Fifth event is Bunny Call in 2051. Okay, then I have 6th event being Blackbird, Hide and Seek, The Breaking Wheel. He told me everything. That's an interesting story. A very interesting story that I just went which I will go about. Right, that was in the previous recording. I did not publish because that was in the previous recording, which I scrapped. But he told me everything. Gumdrop Angel, Puppet Carver, Jump for Tickets, Pizza Kit, Seat Friendly Face, See Bonnie's. Those are all those stars that I mentioned. Doctor Who has indeed covered them on his story reviews, so we don't need to ever actually do anything to do with that. Together Forever, Prankster, Cassette Play, Fun Player 2, and now we're at the Cliffs, where, okay, so you can tell, to explain why it's the last event, practically the last story, is because of the next event, which is about how basically somehow Tag-Along Freddy just managed to get, like, into an alternate universe, like being the game universe. And something very interesting is the fact that good old okay, so we got the good old what's it called? Good old fact that possibly Tag-Along Freddy just goes into the universe, gets fixed up by William, redesigned and made to look like Fredbear, Little Evan's favorite character. And there's alternate ideas of why, but the context is that Tag-Along Freddy is basically missing at the end of the story for some unexplained reason. Some people speculate that Tag-Along Freddy is just being disguised as the main character's son. Or the fact that the good old fact that Tag-Along Freddy was being disguised as one of the theories was that he was disguised and he was actually being the kids. But then there's also the idea that Tag-Along Freddy was just blown away by the wind. He's a toy, and that his son is just there. And you saw my theory. Okay, I'm very tired. I have to get this video out before tomorrow.
I made a friend. Lots of memories we have ahead.
Yep.
To make before we reach a bitter end. Since friends don't last forever in the end, that's what they said. So we spent time playing many games before the show. Time eating pizza, watching those balloons fly up into the air without a care. Without a care. Goodbye to lonely times I wish you were in the end. Goodbye to days I spent a mile playing pretend. You've got as a friend.
You have like the whole FNAF world thing.
I have a friend, and because of him I made some other friends. We laughed at memes of games he made no offense. Cause what he did was help us in the end. Be better friends.
The fire is beating 420 minutes. Stop the beating 50-20 minutes. The short jump scare. We have a friend.
But when the
Police came through, they tore you from my side, and when I let you through, she came out alive. When I look in your eyes, you took me by surprise. So the reaction to You Get High. And also,
I made a friend. Lots of memories we had together. But these old bones know they don't last forever. So I'm saying my goodbye before it ends. Before it ends.
Doctor reaction to Fredbear's in the end. Goodbye, days I spent with my pretend. Cause you made me. Not that stand-up video. Goodbye, days I spent with you, playing pretend. Goodbye, Game 7 reaction. This is the Game 7. It was a by the way, by the way. Goodbye. Good old Fredbear. Oh god. Good old Golden Freddy just twitching out, and then you have little FNAF World, one of the FNAF World endings. It's not the FNAF World ending, but it is. And by the way, what I was going to say about Buff Elfie is that he will probably appear in another video. Hopefully not part 3 of this. Hopefully the fact that there's not going to be a part 3. I don't want a part 3. I really don't want a part 3. This was supposed to be the last supposed to be a slide on the last presentation. But as you can see, there's far, far more.
The main reason why people think that Vanny and Vanessa are two different people is basically because the fire ending. So in the fire ending, we see Freddy burn down the whole mall and then literally tackle Vanny off the roof, killing both of them. Gregory takes the mask off Vanny to reveal Vanessa's face. At that point, we are in complete shock because never could we have guessed that Vanny and Vanessa could be the same person. But to our surprise, after the credits roll, it pans up to Vanessa standing on the roof in the flames, looking down, terrified. So that made us believe, wait, are Vanny and Vanessa not the same person? How is she alive? Isn't she down there dead? A lot of the counter arguments that I hear about this is that is Vanessa's ghost, looking down on both of them, horrified because she knows that she is trapped in the mall with all the rest of the souls for eternity. I don't think that's the case for a couple reasons. Number one, they don't indicate very well that is a ghost. of Vannessa. Like, she is not see-through, she is not sparkling, she is full color, full human standing there. And you could say, you know, maybe they didn't want to make her see-through, they didn't want to make it that obvious, and yeah, you could say that, but I think this franchise has done a very good job at differentiating what is a human, a living human, and what is a not living human, whether it be in purple form or in gray, sad form. So it kind of wouldn't be on brand for Five Nights at Freddy's to show someone as a ghost as a fully colored human. Next, we have the CDs, and oh my gosh, there's a lot to unpack, because the CDs were the main reason people were saying that they are the same person. This obviously proves that they are the same person, because Vannessa talks about how she's making this bunny costume and blah, 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 blah. So obviously, if you've been paying attention to the CDs, there are two different people that therapists are obviously talking to. Number 71 and number 46. Number 71 is the only one that talks. 46 never says anything the whole time. And we learned early on that 71 is Vannessa. We learned through these tapes that Vannessa is a rule follower. She's just trying to do her job, and that's when she talks about how she's friends with Lewis, and the therapist confronts her about talking to someone, and that someone might be manipulating her through her emails. But number 46 is a totally different conversation. The therapist is talking to number 46 like they're a child. The therapist kind of plays dumb with 46, saying pretty common words that an 18-year-old would probably know, but then asking them if they know what the word means, or, oh, you don't know what that means, don't you?
I'm surprised by your knowledge of computers. You're something of a phenom. Do you know what that word means? It means you have unusual skill.
Also, there's an obvious difference in personality and preferences between the two people. For example, the flowers. One of them loves flowers and one of them hates flowers. One of them likes to be in the dark. One of them likes to look outside and be in the sun. Two completely different people. And I think people saying that they're just alters and that the therapist is talking to the same person, but it's just two different personalities at the same time. I just don't think that makes sense, because the therapist doesn't acknowledge that ever. When one of them wants to look outside at the blue sky and be in the sun, and then suddenly another day they want to be in the dark, the therapist doesn't question it at all. When Vannessa and 46 contradict each other, the therapist doesn't really bring this up and doesn't really call it out that, hey, didn't you like flowers literally last week? And didn't you like being outside literally 2 days ago? You know, stuff like that. And in a couple of those instances, you could say, well, it's different therapists. They were getting murdered as the therapy was going on. The big if there is if those key personality traits were written into their notes. And also the numbers on the tapes, 46 and 71. Why would the therapist label a same person's therapy session two different numbers? It just doesn't make sense. And the nail on the coffin for why they could be two separate people that some people seem to be missing is that in one of 46 tapes, the therapist says that 46 was caught on camera talking to Vanny.
I have this still shot the techs pulled from the security footage that recorded you in the Pizzaplex. I know this image is distorted, but I think it looks like you. You're not alone here. You're talking to someone. Or something. It's hard to tell. What are those things? They almost look like rabbit ears.
46 in the same room as Vanny talking to each other. For the record, she doesn't specifically say 46 was talking to Vanny, but she said 46 was talking to someone with bunny ears. And if the therapist who works for Fazbear Entertainment doesn't know what one of her animatronics looks like, that's a problem. So I think she didn't know what it was, aka it was probably Vanny. Another piece of evidence is the lost and found scene of the game when we are caught by Vannessa and then she throws us in lost and found and then she appears on the screen. Vannessa appears on the screen talking to us saying, you're going to stay in there until the police or your parents arrive. And then all of a sudden Vanny's there and she's like, I'm coming to get you. And then Vannessa just comes hopping in the office 3 seconds after she was in her security uniform. And to the people that say, well, it's probably a pre-recorded message, I don't know why she would go through the effort of putting up her camera and ring light, telling people to like and subscribe, throwing it into iMovie, cutting it between the two clips just to show that to him in the Lost and Found office. It just doesn't make sense. I think Vannessa maybe had good intentions and wanted him to be safe and not get caught by any of these animatronics. And Vanny saw this was happening and took that opportunity where Gregory was stuck in the office to get him. And what people will say is that Vanny and Vannessa are working together, so Vannessa trapped him in the office to let Vanny get him. But why would Vannessa lie to him when he's already trapped? I don't believe she would just put on this show of like, I'm still a security officer and your parents are going to arrive soon when he's already trapped. I feel like you would just show the Vanny thing and then just get it over with. There's like no need to lie to him anymore. Next piece of evidence is the past trailer, specifically the NVIDIA trailer. At the end of the trailer, we hear this. I see you. Yes, that is two laughs happening at the same time. I know it's just an NVIDIA trailer. It's not even technically a real trailer, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. Also, I want to throw in the line from this trailer.
About the Patient 46 thing is the fact that there was a
It's because
Where William Afton says both of you will burn if you don't obey. I had a theory that might have been William Afton speaking through Monty to Chica and Roxy, saying, if you guys don't obey, you're getting thrown into the
therapy
fire.
things
But that could also be referring to Vanny and Vanessa.
what
Vanny
certain
and Vanessa
things
don't
were
obey
thought
him,
of, and
get
one of the
Gregory,
things that was
they're
pointed
gonna
out by
be
what
flames.
apparently was pointed out
figure of Vanny
by
and
the
Vanessa
therapist
standing right
was that
next to each other, but
Patient
that's just a little
46
piece of
thinks
evidence.
of
I
it
don't think
as
that
a
actually
disguise,
means.
a
Just throwing that out there.
mask.
Don't bite my head off, please. Next up, we have
Why
Fury's
would
Rage. Everyone
Gregory
seems to forget about Fury's Rage. It is
be
the game
looking
that
for a
Scott Kaufman
mask?
put out when Security Breach was delayed. Everyone forgets about the VR sisters, but not me.
Not John.
How is this relevant? Well, in FNAF VR, we learned that the way Glitch Trap or William Afton merges with the beta tester for FNAF VR is through the VR game. You have to be playing the VR game and you have to collect all the tapes to be able to merge with him. That is how the Vanny character formed, and that is how we got here. It's just an interesting detail to create VR sisters in the Fury's Rage game. There's no reason, there's nothing else in the past series that indicates anything about sisters, especially VR sisters. So maybe Vanessa took the job at the mall to try and save her sister from William Afton. She's turning to Vanny and she's like, what the heck is going on? Why are you so crafty all of a sudden? I don't know. Just a theory. Also, they're different voice actors. Vanny and Vanessa are two different voice actors. Also, Vanessa
Some
is the
people
same
might say
voice
that, but
actor as
then
Vanny.
realistically, why? You can't just say because of budget. It would be a lot easier. Okay, this.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that can't help but stuff its face with FNAF lore like Chica stuffs her face with pizza and garbage. I guess at this point it kind of applies to us too. Anyway, if you want to stuff your YouTube feed with FNAF videos, then hit that subscribe button right now, because today starts what I expect to be a 3-part series into the many unsolved mysteries of Security Breach. I mean, on the surface, the game seems pretty self-explanatory, right? Survive being trapped in a mall for one night. Looks like the new team forgot to read the title of the franchise. That's nothing. That's easy. Once you start looking into secret rooms, secret tapes, secret endings, secret minigames, and actually bother to read all the emails and item descriptions, you learn that there is a lot more here. Stuff that looks both backwards at the series that came before and forwards into what is coming next. Stuff that, quite frankly, I'm still working on piecing together. This is a big game with lots of places to hide things. But today, I want to focus on a mystery that I do feel like I have a pretty solid handle on. The relationship between Gregory and Glamrock Freddy. What's the deal with this random kid, and why is a killer animatronic suddenly trying to help him? Like, seriously, the game kicks off with this incredible cutscene. Everyone is living their best 80s-tastic lives on stage before Freddy suddenly glitches out and smash cut to Gregory just being there, I guess. It is one of the weirdest, most jarring intros to a game ever. And then from that point forward, we're just expected to assume that everything is perfectly normal, no explanations necessary. So I'm here to give you that explanation, because I strongly suspect that this boy is not a boy, and this robot is not a robot, and that the story of their relationship is one that's trying to make amends for one of the earliest and most pivotal points from this entire franchise.
The bite of 83.
What we do know about Gregory in order to piece together the rest. So what does the game offer us in terms of his backstory? Nothing. First and foremost, we know that he's pretty much off the radar. At the start of the game, Freddy does a quick scan, only to realize
your lack of
profile is unknown to me. Similarly, when security guard Vanessa is chatting it up with Freddy, we hear this part of their conversation.
That is great news.
You've never heard it.
He can be returned to his parents.
He can't. Turns out there's no record of him.
Clearly, Gregory is not a guest at the Pizzaplex. It also seems like he has nowhere else to go. In the game's bad ending, unlocked by just leaving the building at 6 a.m., we see Gregory winding up in an alleyway sleeping in a cardboard box. He appears to be homeless. He's an orphan. This then explains a few other things that we see around the Pizzaplex. In a couple of hidden locations around the building, we find little dens that are filled with drawings, plushies, and beds. The most notable one being the one behind the daycare center. Gregory seems to be living inside the Pizzaplex, which would explain his lack of a guest pass. We can't even be sure that his name is Gregory. In the game's opening scene, Gregory has no issues speaking to Freddy.
Will you shut up?
Who said that?
I did.
However, once Freddy asks him for his name, he stutters.
I'm Gregory.
Why would he stutter on his name when he was clearly fine answering everything else just seconds before? So, what?
Is that it? Gregory's just some homeless kid that sets up shop in the Pizzaplex and happens to get wrapped up in Afton and Vanny's plans? Yeah, right. Of course not. Nothing in this franchise is ever an accident. Take a look at Gregory here. Notice anything familiar? Dark eyes, brown hair with a piece fallen between his eyes, shorts, a shirt with 2 stripes across the middle. Ladies and gentlemen, Gregory is none other than the crying child. Don't believe me? Early on, we get this weird moment when Freddy suddenly stops what he's doing and says this.
I feel you are broken.
We all know that the language in this franchise is never chosen by accident. Everything is meticulously crafted, so is it a coincidence then that the word broken is only used one other time in the FNAF series to describe a child? That iconic FNAF 4 clip with crying child and golden Fredbear, you're broken. We're still your friends. I will put you back together. The fact that both Crying Child and Gregory look alike and are considered to be broken screams of a connection existing between these two. Him being the Crying Child would also explain why he has nowhere else to go. His dad is an undead zombie living inside a yellow bunny suit, and his mom is MIA. There's also lines like this.
Your parents want you to follow me. Your family is looking for you. Let me take you to your parents.
On one hand, this just sounds like Chica spouting out some generic security protocol. On the other hand, if indeed Gregory is the crying child, Chica's lines here take on a whole new meaning, because she is quite literally bringing him to his family. His father living in the basement, William Afton. But obviously there's one big problem with this, one that I'm sure all of you are screaming at your monitors or typing aggressively down in the comments. Crying child is dead. He died in FNAF 4 when his older brother Micheal picked him up to be chomped. And not only did he die, his soul then went on to be one of the 2 spirits possessing Golden Freddy, the other being the vengeful spirit Cassidy, before he was finally put to rest by the puppet in the happiest day ending of FNAF 3. This kid is well and truly gone. He is removed from the franchise. He is one of the few cards that are officially off the lore table. So why then do I dare invoke his name here? Because Gregory is a robot, a rebuilt version of the crying child. Flame shields activate because it's time for everyone's favorite
Might also
segment.
be possessed by the
That
crying
uses
child.
the lore from multiple FNAF books to try and explain parts of the game that don't make sense. I'll try to make this as quick and painless for all of us as possible. In the books, children having tragic premature deaths and then being rebuilt as robots by their grieving fathers is something that happens a lot. Like, if I had a nickel for every time this plot line showed up, I'd have like 3 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened 3 times. In the original novel trilogy, the whole big twist of that was that Charlie, daughter of Henry Emily, died as a kid, and that her father put her back together by building robotic versions of her, each one representing a different stage of her growing up development. Then again, in Fazbear Frights, we have the character of Eleanor, who is strongly implied to have been built as a replacement daughter, as well as Dr. Telbert, who developed Remnant as a way to preserve his sick and dying daughter. And all of this is without me even going into the numerous stories where children get swapped out for robots and or Fazgoo, which, once it has your DNA, basically creates a clone of you. If that's the future of the franchise we're going down.
No, we will not talk about Fazgoo.
There's evidence in the wider canon that FNAF 4's lines about the crying child being broken and needing to be put back together were meant to be much more literal than any of us first suspected. But we don't even have to go that far. Within Security Breach itself, there is plenty of evidence to suggest that Gregory isn't exactly what he seems. When Vanny spots you and starts to get closer, your vision gets a CRT effect. Basically the horizontal lines that old TV monitors used to get. And it's worth remembering that since this is a first-person game, that is representing your vision. So why are your eyes suddenly behaving like cameras on the Fritz? Unless, you know, they are
Cameras on the Fritz.
Later in the game,
and of course it's on Fritz's gravestone. It wasn't on Fritz, it wasn't on the Fritz, it was just on Fritz's gravestone, remember?
Sometimes she'll stare and talk to the other bots through walls. She's able to see things that others can't, which allows us to see collectibles like secret CDs. In a way, she has a sort of X-ray vision, which is why when you first install him into Freddy, his comment really stands out.
How are your new eyes?
I am having a hard time adjusting. You look different to me.
It's almost like he was seeing Gregory as a normal child, but now that he has these new eyes, he's able to see through Gregory's skin and reveal something that he wasn't expecting. Like, say, an animatronic endoskeleton. Also, Gregory can be inside Freddy when he's inside the charging stations, which on its own feels weird. Like, I kinda expected you to hop out and leave him to charge, but nope, we pilot him inside of it and then sit there as he charges. Or could it be that those charging stations are as much for us as they are for him? Remember that secret den behind the daycare where we assumed Gregory Gregory's living, there's a strange amount of decommissioned and what appear to be salvaged security robots. Maybe for a kid who needs a robotic upgrade. The fact that there's no record of Gregory would also make sense. If he's an animatronic, there wouldn't be records of him because he's not technically a human. It would also explain why Gregory has no parents. But maybe the biggest point of evidence comes from the very beginning of the game, where during the opening cutscene we see Freddy glitch out. This sets him on a course of being good for the rest of the game. But what causes that glitch to happen in the first place? Well, by going frame by frame, we can see that there's a security threat on the loose, and it looks to be a small child. What? It's Gregory. It has to be. Gregory is the threat here. A robot that poses a threat to Freddy's programming. But why? How? What would make sense about that? Well, to understand that connection, it's time to put a pin in Gregory and turn our attention over to Freddy. If you unlock the game's final secret ending, you end up going below the Pizzaplex, only to discover a former Freddy Fazbear location, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. If that name doesn't mean anything to you, it shouldn't. Really, most of the restaurants in the series go unnamed. But while the name might not mean anything,
you mean none of them?
Should be a familiar one. One large rectangular stage with lights on the trim and big speakers on either side, and a smaller semicircle stage right next to it. It's from FNAF 6 Pizzeria Simulator. Notice the stools that are placed right in front, the checkered floor. We even have purple striped tablecloths and blue, green, and red plates, exactly like we saw in Pizzeria Simulator. As a refresher, this is the location that Henry lured all of the roaming animatronics to in order to burn them to the ground one final time.
Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, friend.
This is it here. Seems like Henry's plan didn't quite work as expected. We still see pretty much everyone that he tried to torch away. They're all alive and well and thriving underground. Springtrap is there. Molten Freddy is there as this big black blob. And if you look inside that blob, you can even see Baby. And heck, even the puppet kind of lessens the impact of that Savage Henry speech from FNAF 6. But whatever. Anyway, the reason I bring this up, outside of it giving me a chance to remind everyone that I totally called something like this happening at the end of the last theory from a year ago, is that one character is notably absent here, Micheal Afton, who we're reasonably sure was the guard working at the FNAF 6 location and the one who helped to burn it down.
And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be.
After being scooped, turning purple, and trying to undo his family's sins location by location, he went down with the ship and burned alongside his father and sister. Which means that presumably he should be here somewhere, and yet he's not. Unless, of course, he's taken on a new form, say perhaps Glamrock Freddy. We know for a fact that Freddy's been down here based on some of the lines that he drops during the finale.
I know what this is. I have been here before. She brought me here. I have no choice. Now I have a choice. I have changed. My friends are here. They are so angry, confused, but I can protect you.
So he's in a place where he can get possessed. We also hear that Freddy isn't acting like his normal self, saying,
I am not me.
And in yet another ending, the fire ending, Freddy is more than prepared to set the place ablaze, much like Micheal Afton did to Fazbear Frights at the end of FNAF 3. I guess old habits die hard. And nothing says that clearer than the replica of Mike's room from Sister Location that's hiding inside the Pizzaplex. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, hidden inside the mall is the exact replica of Mike's living room from Sister Location, down to the TV, lamp, and basket of exotic butters. Exotic butters. Exotic. But here's the kicker. Over on Mike's wall is a coded message, one that was solved through an incredible team effort from Dawko and the rest of the FNAF subreddit. It
was
reads
solved,
as follows.
not quite.
Break and mend, I built the breath. They hunt now.
There's a few
drawn
errors.
to life. Not real, still me. And frit and fraught with thought and zest, and guessed no blunt woes. Dodge, duck, flash, shoot, crawl, run, crush the vile band. Cry not, try not, do not hold out hope. Your life, your aim will save those with soul. I feel like this is some sort of a poetry reading. Snaps, everyone. Snaps. Snaps.
Yeah, man, cue the bongos. Alright, basically this is just a bunch of fancy talk, all relating to Mike's personal journey. The first line is all about breaking and repairing things, and in doing that, creating new life. In other words, Ennard and Baby. The rest is all about his commitment to try and stop the evil animatronics and try to save any of them with a soul left in their bodies. Now, does the presence of this room and poem necessarily mean that Mike is Freddy? No. But I do think it's telling that we're reminded of Mike's commitment to save everyone inside of a room that you're required to find alone in the dark, i.e. without Glamrock Freddy hovering over your shoulders. Heck, during the finale, we even get this line from Glamrock Freddy.
My friends are here. They are so angry, confused.
He's talking about Molten Freddy, the spirits trapped inside of the blob. It's very possible that those were indeed his friends captured and killed back in the day. Maybe William himself struck back against the kids that had bullied his youngest son, and now some of their spirits are trapped below the surface as part of the blob in this abandoned restaurant. Or maybe that's why Gregory is so brutal to all of these animatronics at the end of each boss battle. They killed him back in 1983, and now it's his turn to show the bullies no mercy by launching a go-kart at their face and ripping out their eyeballs. And meanwhile, Freddy is sad because they are quite literally his friends from when they were alive. But to me, honestly, the biggest connection points between Mike and Glamrock Freddy are thematic. Their narrative. Mike has been moving to location after location to try and undo his father's horrible work. This would just be a continuation of that story, as both Aftons return post-fire. And more importantly, it also completes the arc of the crying child and his older brother. Since accidentally killing his brother in FNAF 4, Michael's been trying to make amends. This would be quite literally their grand reunion, an older brother finally able to protect and defend his younger sibling in a way that he failed to earlier in their lives. This is also why Freddy's programming would glitch out after he encounters Gregory in the opening cutscene. The soul of Mike, buried deep in Freddy's code, comes through upon sensing his brother again. It hotwires the system so that Michael Afton, in the body of Freddy, can defend his kid brother. And the Afton story doesn't stop there either. In part of the Pizzaplex, we find a family dinner scene made up of decommissioned staff robots. A father, a mother that kind of looks like Ballora, a daughter with rosy cheeks and orange pigtails, a son, and one with its head missing, the child whose head was bitten off in 1983. This is very clearly the Afton family. There is no doubt about that.
Yep. Okay, so that was the first part of the theory, and then you have this part, which is the fact that the eyes are greenish yellow, which, if you remember, Elizabeth Afton had green eyes, so there is a possible family connection. And Vanessa wouldn't be Elizabeth exactly because Elizabeth would have green eyes and not greenish yellow eyes. It makes no sense.
Gregory, we can get you out of here. You and me together.
She wants to help him. I know technically this is an old trailer.
They won't stop hunting you. None of them will stop hunting you.
And some things have changed in the narrative arc itself.
We have to get you out by morning.
But pretty much still the same. She's just a bit more like rushy and like trying to get him out quickly without actually expressing that she really wants him out because of just really wanting him out because she doesn't want him dead from Vanny, which is her evil twin. Mrs. Afton would be an easy person for William to control. I don't know why 4 is capitalized, but okay, but because she is his wife, and what probably happened was that he is trying to control someone that isn't Vanny because he's just done with Vanny, or just doesn't want to deal with Vanny. He doesn't want to deal with Vanny. He wants to move back and forth in that time, and wanted to be quick but easy. So he went for his wife, Vanessa. That was my miniature part of that. And the next part.
Let's quickly speed our way through probably the least important story of this new trio, the middle one titled Dance With Me. In it, we cover Casey, a young woman who's coming from a tragic childhood. She lives on the street, picking pockets and nabbing purses. One day, she robs a mother and a young girl
as you see in the video, like there is a lot of a motherly, high motherly thing. Like,
potentially important detail alert. Anyway, one of the items that she nabs is a set of cardboard glasses. When Casey puts them on, she sees a hologram of Ballora spinning in the distance. Weirded out by this, she has other people try glasses on, and no
the
one
main
else
antagonist is Ballora, and is a motherly thing. Kind of a coincidence, not really.
Closer, which begins to freak her out to the point of her leaving town and trying to put her life back together in hopes that it gets Ballora to leave her alone. A couple cities and failed jobs later, Casey eventually decides to return the stolen items to the mother and the daughter, hoping
from the video there's a mention of a protagonist.
Forgives her, but when the little girl Isabella puts the glasses on, she not only sees Ballora, but she immediately begins dancing. It's a very vague ending because it's unclear whether Ballora, who was one step away from getting Casey,
there's a reference to VR, like
she's the one who puts the
glasses,
next,
like
the
possibly the glasses could be referencing the VR headset.
The girl just excited to be dancing alongside one of her favorite characters, Ballora. Anyway,
when she puts it on multiple times, Ballora gets closer, and she gets close enough so that she possesses, which is possibly a reference to Glitch Trap getting closer the more tapes you find. Which,
we see throughout the story that this Ballora hologram kicks up
and when you find them all, Glitch Trap will try to possess you. If Vanessa is indeed Mrs. Afton, she and William have a murder history, so the parallels would make sense because if you think about it, William possessed Spring Bonnie, and becomes a holographic version of the suit that he possessed. Mrs. Afton would have also possessed the animatronic that she was a hologram of. From the end of the video, we learn that Ballora ends up interacting with the real world, but still acting like code, which William does in the Stichverse stories, which are canon for the main timeline, in my opinion, just to be clear. But William does in the Stichverse stories, even though he doesn't do it as Glitch Trap, he still does it as like the Afton virus, which is the version of Glitch Trap that takes place after Security Breach. Because the Manor in 1280 also takes place after Security Breach, but he also interacts with the real world and making people sick. So as I mentioned on my previous point, if Vanessa is indeed Mrs. Afton, she and William have a murder history, so the parallels would make sense. And then going to this specific slide, what I mean by possessed is the reason why it's in quotation marks is because possessed in this case just means that you control the animatronic, because William is just piloting the suit, and it's not just it is alive in there, piloting a suit being kept by a vengeful spirit. So first we have to acknowledge something. Look at the parallels of Lonely Freddy and Toy Freddy. Like, they look very similar, and they're both toy, and Lonely Freddy is a toy robot of Freddy. Perhaps a toy Freddy, which happens to also be swapped with someone. But toy Freddy might be possessed or something. Even though maybe in like this universe it's slightly reversed. Instead of blue to green, it's green to blue. But look at all these weird parallels. This one kind of has a similarity to Toy Freddy. This character has a similarity to Toy Freddy. And that possibly he is the brother of the next of this character, Pigtail Girl. Laughing Kid is the brother of Pigtail Girl, who is also possibly Hazel. Pigtail Girl is Toy Chica. Toy Bonnie is the Spring Bonnie plush kid that I made fun of in the previous video. Toy Chica, Toy Freddy, the whole toy robots, where Foxy's notably missing. And that just happens to be that Mangle also has a red bow tie. Kind of an interesting parallel. And then, well, this is obviously Blue Boy. And then, Puppet being daycare attendant. Okay. But this whole thing where the puppet's daycare attendant, well, it's because of these reasons. First, we have to acknowledge that in the blob, Chica, Bonnie, Mangle, Funtime Freddy, and the endoskeleton all have lit red eyes, but the puppet has no lit eyes and is missing its signature purple streaks and tears. So I think Charlotte, the soul of the puppet, left the puppet and went into daycare attendant. If you look closely enough, really, really close, you can see a little bit of tear streaks down the, possibly a stain, just like the puppet. The daycare attendant and the puppet are both human-like animatronics with long, thin legs and arms. The daycare attendant and the puppet both have small eyes that don't have pupils. Small eyes that don't have pupils, not regular sized, not big eyes. Daycare attendant screams when the lights are off. The puppet gets irritated when we don't calm her with the music box. When she's stuck at the price counter because they're terrified of the dog.
So the company decided to just go in a whole new direction and make them super kid friendly. Those older ones shouldn't be able to walk around, but if they do, the whole Freddy head trick should work on them too. So whatever. I love those old characters. Did you ever see Foxy the Pirate? Oh wait, Foxy. Oh yeah, Foxy.
Puppet.
Hey, listen. That one was always a bit twitchy. I'm not sure if the Freddy head trick will work on Foxy. If for some reason he activates during the night.
Look at the jump scares. Both of them show arm first, then the head. Look, those jump scares were very quick and brief. But look, all of those. Okay, got through that one. Closing out that tab. Okay. This is a whole nother theory. Wait. But this is something relatively quick. But look. This is basically the order of animatronics based on when they get possessed. Ballora. Circus Baby. Funtime Freddy, Bon Bon, and Bonnet, they're all being possessed roughly at the same time. But Ballora is being possessed first because, well, Ballora was also killed first in the timeline. Funtime Freddy just came along afterwards, and Elizabeth was killed, but Circus Baby was killed second, and then Funtime Freddy eventually does get possessed. But what caused the place to shut down? Possessed by Millie, presumably. Then you have the puppet, Withered Chica, obviously because I was the fast. I have seen it. And by the way, I'm just showing Withered Chica because that's just the form that I'm using. Withered Vanny, Withered Freddy, Withered Golden Freddy, Withered Foxy, who's Micheal. I will show why later in this video. Balloon Boy, Toy Chica, Mangle, Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie. And then you have these Faz Facts. The original animatronics featured spring lock suits that had to be hand cranked to allow them to be worn safely by employees. Fazbear's twisted pizza recipe was voted most yummy by 6 out of 10 children in every survey from 1988 to 1993. The first location of the Freddy's franchise was actually Fredbear's singing show. There's actually now the fact that Steelable has shown that it's Fredbear's singing show and not Fredbear's Family Diner. That's actually false, but it's a forgotten location that we've only found out in recent, quote unquote, recent. The famous William Afton is the man responsible for the creation of the animatronics we all know and love, and also is also responsible for a lot of deaths of children. But technically, it was Henry forcing him until after the Bite of 87, where he just does it on his own. Some of the first animatronics, copyrighted, not built, by William Afton, featured claw mechanisms that were able to hide away items inside them. Claw mechanisms that were able to hide away items inside them. As in the Funtime animatronics, meaning Laura could be possessed by Mrs. Afton. In 1993, the most dangerous profession in the United States was actually a night security guard. Yay, calling yourself out. Despite the name, hurricanes are not actually the leading cause of death of children in Hurricane Utah. Very funny, because that's basically where everything in FNAF takes place. Basically, Chica's Cupcake features a unique set of servos and is its own independently suite of software, which was weird finding out Chica's Cupcake. It's weird knowing that Chica's Cupcake is just its own animatronic. Rockstar Bonnie was developed from the original Bonnie for use in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria franchise operations. Okay, now this is a pretty much easy reason. So the reasons why. Does he still talk to you? Like, why would Cassidy be able to be aware that Fredbear was talking to him in the first place unless she herself was actually the one talking to it and just making Evan feel comfortable? Is your favorite childhood toy a plastic purple telephone? A bit personal question if you're meeting them in the animatronic, unless you've known them their entire life. Do you miss them? Which is just talking about talking about Micheal. Do you miss them? Do you miss your family? Which would be an oddly personal question. And then the party was for you. So, excuse me. The party was for you. It's a reference to the FNAF 4 party. How would she know about it unless she was there and then was also there when she died? And also, a very fun thing that was never ever mentioned that people just kind of pushed away is the fact that psychic friend Fredbear is being put into a flower. Sounds like a romantic act to me. Sounds weird, but it would look weird. And honestly, I don't think he's weird. I think he's just traumatized. And now we gotta listen to this good old song.
He's your buddy. When your brother is a jerk, he's your pal. When your dad is off at work, he won't leave you. When you go get a bite, at least until the sixth night. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Who you gonna call? Psychic friend Fredbear. He's a flower, for reasons still unknown, and he stalks you. On your way back home, he makes a promise that throws off all the lore. Seriously, Scott, what is this line for? And is it supposed to be in a slightly different yellow font here? Are you meaning this to be figurative or literal? Because if it's literal, you are opening up a literal can of worms. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Who you gonna call? Psychic friend Fredbear. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Who you gonna call? Psychic friend Fredbear.
Okay. We haven't even gotten to like an hour yet. It's nice. So these are my basic reasons of why FNAF 4 isn't a dream. First off, crying child wouldn't be aware that he was in need of medical care if he was in a coma. It would make no sense. Sister location shows the chair from Fun with Plush Trap and the hallways that we observe when we click on each door of FNAF 4. The layout lines up with sister location. FNAF World. Okay, so hear me out. I think the candidacy of FNAF World is that It is simply an in-universe game that would mean that the in-universe creator of FNAF World would have seen the Nightmare Animatronics, or that they possibly could have created the nightmares, and a sneaking suspicion the name is Henry Henley. I will get more on the whole Henry is the villain later, but Nightmare Freddy's April Fool's mechanic for UCN. So I mean, it could be just debunking Dream Theory, but the animatronics that supports Dream Theory the most is Toy Chica, so FNAF 4 is real. Also, how come Nightmare Freddy doesn't appear unless we die in FNAF 4? Because the ability to fabricate a possible death in your mind without seeing them in the dream before, since we obviously win canonically, obviously it makes sense. Maybe we die with Nightmare Balloon, with Balloon Boy, but that's it. Which is actually the only point in time left in FNAF 4 where it's actually a dream. Okay, so these are the reasons why I believe Micheal Afton is Fritz, aka Foxy's soul, and that sister location takes place directly after FNAF 4. Well, look. Tampering with the animatronics, and odor, which basically Micheal is rotting. It makes sense that Micheal is, and then you have Fritz Smith. So Micheal is fired for tampering with the animatronics and odor, and the same applies to Fritz Smith. The odor could be explained by the fact that Micheal Afton got spooked. Nice, he got spooked. Scoped at the end of Sister Location, or brutally opened, because but brutally opened by hand or by wire. And then started to rot and bruise. So that shows that Sister Location would at the latest 1987 would be the latest 1987 would Sister Location would at the latest 1987 would be at the latest 1987. Typo. I made these presentations, but damn, I did not notice this typo. I haven't touched this in a while. The name Fritz also matches the name of the spirit who possessed Foxy, and Micheal Afton is the Foxybro, so it lines up perfectly. That would narrow it down before the missing children's incident in 1985. Micheal Afton supposedly doesn't remember his name, so what I think he forgets is that he forgets his name in FNAF's Sister Location in 1983 and only remembers it again 51 years later in FNAF 3. 2034. What happened in those 51 years, you may ask? Well, I think from 1993 to 1993, Micheal thinks his name is Fritz Smith. Then he gets the survival logbook out that he has a brother named Evan and that his name is Mike. He decided that he wanted to change his last name from Schmidt, because he thought the name Smith was boring after a while because he doesn't know his actual last name. he crosses off his name because he no longer is used in use of the survival logbook, and this might be obscure, absurdly meta. Their survival logbook fell into our universe, but somehow of the spiritual markings left by Cassidy and Evan are still in it. And the puzzle to finding Cassidy's name wasn't intended for us. It was intended for Micheal. But for the time of FNAF 3, Micheal finally figures out who he is. The line of, "What do you remember?" has two different meanings. One is after getting scooped. One is that after getting scooped, he experienced amnesia because he would have to fall to the ground from dying. The other reason is that Micheal doesn't remember the Bite of 3 because Henry was in control of him. Because I made a theory about Henry being the villain, which I will talk about later. And since I believe that Henry was controlling him, and I also believe FNAF 4 wasn't a dream, Micheal was in Nightmare Foxy until after Night 5, where he eventually finds Circus Babies Entertainment and Rentals, where sister location takes place randomly. It has to be random because he wouldn't willingly shock his sister inside of Circus Baby, since Micheal would not want to hurt another sibling after the Bite of 83. Okay, so Micro.
Closer, which isn't just sparking new theories, but is straight up confirming stuff that we've argued about for years. In it, we meet Pete, a 16-year-old who, due to their parents' divorce, has to babysit his little brother,
Chuck the Chomp.
One day, while watching him at a Freddy Fazbear's pizzeria, Pete, annoyed about having to be the responsible one, decides to scare Chuck a little by taking him backstage to see an out-of-service Foxy. Pete fires up the machine and Chuck runs away, leaving Pete alone to get seemingly hypnotized by Foxy's performance. A performance that repeats one line over and over. You can be a pirate, but first you have to lose an eye and an arm. And from there, you can probably guess what happens. Over the next few days, Pete gets into multiple accidents that put either his eye or his arm in danger. A scalpel nearly hits his eye in science class. A butcher knife almost chops off his hand at the store. A buzzsaw blade shoots out at him from a nearby construction site. He gets hooked in the face by a fishing line, and he almost loses a hand to a Chinese finger trap at the school carnival. Anyway, the two brothers eventually make amends and come to the realization that Pete needs to face down Foxy to break.
Yeah, they do make amends.
Pete rushes to Freddy's, but in his panic,
then the truth gets broken, but then it gets remade.
Awful reveal that you absolutely do not see coming because you feel so bad for this kid. You're like, oh, he's apologized to his brother. They have a good relationship. They have a plan for getting Pete out of this after him being brutalized for the better part of a week. He's on his way to close off the story, and then bam, it just ends. And that would be where the story ends, except for one thing. Pete is still alive. Kind of. We pick up back in the hospital where Pete's soul is trapped inside of his own dead body. Pete is an organ donor. Against his will, I might add. Thanks a lot for signing me up for that one, Mom. And they just got an emergency request for, you guessed it, an eye and a hand. Pete is forced to helplessly watch as his body is taken apart by surgeons. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, this story is shocking. But what's even more shocking is the lore confirmation that we get in this thing. Pete's story 100% confirms for us that Foxybro, the older kid from FNAF 4 who repeatedly traumatizes his younger brother before eventually getting him chopped in the jaws of Fredbear, that is undeniably Micheal Afton. 100% no doubt. It's something that we strongly suspected for a while, something that later evidence started to throw into question, but this story, happening 5 years after that game's initial release, finally clears it up for us. Obviously, there are some superficial similarities here. Pete has a younger brother who's scared of the animatronics, just like Foxybro has the crying child, his younger brother who's scared of the animatronics. Pete is connected to Foxy throughout the story, just like the brother in the Foxy mask. Pete and Chuck's parents are divorced, just like it seems William and Mrs. Afton are in the game, leaving the older brothers alone to care for their
Mrs.
younger
Afton is
siblings.
probably
At one
dead.
point in the story, Pete's hand starts to turn purple, which points us back to Michael Afton and sister location physically turning purple. And lastly is that final scene where Pete should be dead, but isn't, which exactly mirrors the iconic words of one Michael Afton.
Father, it's me, Michael. I should be dead, but I'm not.
But all of it is just a bunch of weak parallels between Foxybro and Michael and Pete, and Foxybro and Pete. How do we know for sure that all three of these characters are connected? One word, gum. People ask me a lot how I come up with these theories, and more often than not, it's small details that just stick out as off for the author or game designer to include, as though they're purposely seeding these details out there to try and signal something to us. And in this particular story, the odd character detail of Pete is that he chews gum a lot. Page 4, he's chewing watermelon gum while watching his brother. Later, when he's scared by the Foxy animatronic, the book makes mention of him swallowing that gum. Okay, that's fine, that's a one-off thing, no big deal. But later, on the way to the butcher shop, we're told that he, quote, pops a wad of watermelon gum into his mouth. On the boat fishing with his dad, he wishes he had brought his watermelon gum. It is mentioned a lot in this short story, enough that it sparked my theorist senses and made me flag it to look into later. Now, obviously, at no point during FNAF 4, or heck, any of the games, do we see a character actively chewing gum. That'd be silly, but that's not the only place that we see these characters at this point. Let me direct your attention back to the FNAF Survival Logbook. Who knew that a book with the dabbing chica as an active selling feature would become the single most important item for lore solving of this franchise? For those of you who don't remember this little gem, it's the logbook, originally owned by Mike, as we see on the title page, that helped us to solve for Cassidy's name. And wouldn't you know it, but today it's also the thing that's gonna now reveal to us Michael Afton's true identity. Page 49, quote, list 10 bad habits you'd like to break. Number 1, chewing gum excessively. I mean, there it is, plain as day. Pete chews gum excessively. Michael Afton chews gum excessively. Pete eventually turns purple and comes back to life after being dead. Michael Afton eventually turns purple and comes to life after being dead. Pete is an older brother who scares his younger sibling using Foxy. Foxybro in FNAF 4 is an older brother who scares his younger sibling with Foxy. Pete equals Michael, and Michael equals FNAF 4's Foxybro. Done, confirmed, another character identity locked. This detail has been sitting in the logbook for years, just waiting to be used. Kind of impressive. Well done there, Scott. Well done. This confirmation tells us everything we need to know about Michael's motivation for the rest of the game series. He's avenging his brother's death, the one that he made happen. When Golden Freddy appearances are accompanied by the words, "It's me," it is literally the younger brother saying, "It's me. I'm here," to his older...
Yeah.
Okay. So,
This is my video, so I'm not gonna... God, it's awful audio. So I won't get copyrighted for my own video, but... God, it's awful quality. Audio.
to another theory,
That's an awful audio quality.
which was a video which discussed who the Vengful Spirit was. And showed both sides. Now, I am willing to go a bit more extensive, a bit more
In depth. In depth.
how do I say this? Elaborate on the fact that I'm going to just a slightly different perspective, but showing exactly my perspective of
this concept, which I am agreeing on who they end up deciding, but I have a little bit of twist to
Cringe.
the theory.
This video was unlisted, so you can only find it on the top 10. Well,
To start out, Cassidy cannot be the Vengful spirit
FNAF
because
theory
her soul
presentation.
would be in Princess Quest, and not Room, which you can't have two things in the same place at the same time, which was exactly one of his points on why Crying Child has to be the Vengeful spirit, because they were using that to prove that he can't be Golden Freddy. But I'm going to show you how that is not the case. But for Cassidy, she cannot be in Villian because she's in Princess Quest, which also could imply that she wasn't involved with any of the game, except for the FNAF games, which that includes Give Gifts, Give Life, which would explain why Golden Freddy jumps out at you.
Awful quality.
Out at you at the end, because they're mad that they got ignored by Pocket. Expressing that anger by actually being there and witnessing the event in real style. Now, this is a bit more unrelated, but going with the whole theory that the purple in the purple guy is not to represent a shadow, but more realistically to represent
Realistically, I know it's just what the recording sounds like, but God, it sounds awful.
Shadow Freddy. Yes. So that they can be destroyed. William is actually purple, so he's possessed. Pink guy is still William, but not possessed anymore, but was recently possessed by Henry. So that is why he's pink and not purple. This is also provided evidence, a little bit more evidence on the Henry's the villain thing, but this is actually just the theory. I'm not going to explain it because I already made it. Just Orange Guy is also still William.
Ow. It sounds like I'm yelling, it's just the audio quality.
He has not been possessed at all in the timeline. The end of that notice is later that night after Elizabeth's death, not Charlotte's, and that place is not Freddy's, but Cassidy's house, because I believe Cassidy and Crying Child are close even before death, because they have this whole theory of psychic from Fredbear. T equals Cassidy, which I nicknamed it Psychic Friend Cassidy. Excuse me.
At least I was being safe.
Shadow Freddy, which is a little bit interesting. He possesses Psychic Friend Fredbear in 1983 as a temporary vessel until he grabbed onto the voice of Psychic Friend Fredbear, which is Cassidy, so that he can possess Golden Freddy, except for that too, as Shadow Freddy. And just to be clear, I don't mean Crying Child possesses Shadow Freddy, but Shadow Freddy is Crying Child's literal representing the actual soul, that the actual physical spirit that Crying Child is. After FNAF 2, he goes back to possessing Golden Freddy until the end of FNAF 1, which I already explained what he does as Shadow Freddy, with really learning all that. The main problem with Crying Child being the vengeful spirit is that of the Crying Gregbot theory, which has Crying Child's soul in Gregory's robot body. Well, there is a solution to this problem. There are two vengeful spirits, Crying Child and Andrew. During the Stitch Raid epilogues, fetch out of stock in 1:35 a.m. Crying Child is taking full control of torturing William, but during security breach, Andrew is torturing William, which brings me to the next point. Torture to torture. Believe it or not, Crying Child was absolutely tortured by William. First he created Circus Baby because Elizabeth, which traumatizes him. Also, by the way, I do think that he was not doing that to actually kill her, but that's what Crying Child perceives, so of course that's what she's doing. Next, he locks him in his room. Then, he puts him through nightmare situations. Last but not least, he doesn't stay with him when he died, unlike Micheal and Cassidy, who promised that they would put him back together as Gregory, because he experienced all that torture for William. He would want to torture William as exact revenge. In Men in 1280, the spirit keeping William Afton alive was described as a shadow. In one of Nightmare's lines in UCN is, "The shadow fears me."
God, it sounds awful.
And Nightmare is the last thing Crying Child faces, the literal embodiment of death, what he fears the most, which that can help prove my theory that Crying Child is the Shadow Animatronics. That is my perspective on their theory.
Okay, so that briefly touched, that did definitely try to connect Golden Bolt to Vengeful Victim and Purple was possessed. But now going to this.
Step closer, we meet Andrew and Jake, the two souls who find themselves trapped inside the Stitch Raid. And the conversation that they have when they first meet starts to give us some of the lore drops that we have been waiting years
or instructions
to
for
hear.
if you're going to the
Now
presentation
Jake
itself.
was inside a metal thing.
He
didn't know enough about anything to understand what it was, but he did know that he wasn't alone. He was sharing this strange place. "Oh, hi," Jake said. "I'm Jake. Who are you?" "I'm Andrew." The child's voice was rough. He sounded a little like a boy Jake used to know in school, a boy who was always talking back to the teacher and getting himself in trouble. Jake thought Andrew sounded angry, very angry, end quote. We're told that even though both their souls are infused into the same endoskeleton, Jake is the only one able to move the Stitch Raid's body. He's also the only one capable of seeing the outside world. Andrew is blind to it all. It's kind of like those two-man horse costumes. You never want to wind up being the butt in those things, especially on Chipotle days. It's no wonder Andrew's so mad.
There's one thing that I also forgot to mention in the
looking at someone else's soul.
Vengeful
However,
Spirit
it's
of
when
Crying
they start
Child
talking
here
about their
is
former
acknowledging
lives
the whole
that things start to
thing.
get really
It's a minor
interesting.
detail, but
Quote again, "My
in
memories are kind of fuzzy," Jake said. "Fuzzy, yeah, so are mine."
the survival
Andrew responded,
logbook,
"But I do remember wanting to get back at someone who hurt me. I think
the
I attached myself
venge-
to him. I got
the-
into his
the-
soul, made sure
the
he couldn't move
spirit
on when he should have died. I
who
remember I wanted him to
can't
suffer
see
the
would
way
be
he made
Crying
me
Child,
suffer.
not
I remember they tried to
Cassidy.
kill him, but I wasn't
Like,
going to let him go until I
Andrew
was ready."
is the
With a
vengeful
story
spirit
like
who
that, you can
can't
almost say
see.
that Andrew is a spirit wanting revenge. A literal vengeful spirit, perhaps. Notice how I described Andrew's ghost, a boy with curly black hair and an alligator mask. It's the same hair as the mysterious dead body found inside Golden Freddy's suit back in Fazbear Frights #3. Quote from that book, "Down low, past his arm, Devin could see a body, a dead body, but it wasn't exactly like he thought he'd find. This one had curly black hair. The lore of this series doesn't tend to give us a lot, but one thing it tends to keep relatively consistent is hair. So knowing that Andrew is an angry spirit with curly black hair, and that Golden Freddy has a body inside of it with curly black hair, Andrew is pretty clearly our Golden Freddy kid, which makes things related to Andrew roughly related to Cassidy back in the games. Want even more of a connection between the two of them? The name Cassidy is derived from an Irish surname
Crying child, not Cassidy, though.
Curly-haired. Actually owe that little factoid to Redditor Shrek the First. It's a good find on that one. I actually would have never thought to look into the name Cassidy. So even though Andrew may not be named Cassidy in the books, he is still representing the origin of the name through his hair. Now, here is why all of this matters. Follow me on this. Both Andrew in the books and Cassidy in the games are missing children's incident victims, stuffed inside of suits and angry enough to keep their killer in a purgatory state so he can be tortured. Seems like a pretty slam dunk connection there. We know that up to this point, the books have been hinting at the fact that Golden Freddy may have more than one soul inside of him. And in these stories, we see Andrew actively upset that he has to share an endoskeleton with another dead kid. So is it possible that in the games, Golden Freddy is possessed by both Cassidy and the Bite of 83 victim, Vengeful Spirit and the Crying Child, just like Andrew sharing a body with Jake in the books. After all, we know via clues in the text, as well as book number 6's description, that his endoskeleton mate Jake is a nice kid who died tragically in a hospital. We know that the Crying Child is also a nice kid who dies tragically in a hospital, even though he got bitten before, but you know. Now, admittedly, that alone is a weak sauce connection, I admit it. What's not weak sauce, though, is that evidence is actually out there to prove that two spirits are in Golden Freddy. So last month we proved that Foxybro is definitely Micheal Afton. It is a huge confirmation from the series, but that came with a set of problems, specifically in the form of the security logbook. The problem is that the spirit Cassidy in the book seems to be talking to Mike about things that only apply to the Bite of 83 victim, saying things like, "The party was for you," and talking about his plastic purple telephone. It doesn't make sense if Cassidy is talking to Micheal Afton. But what if Cassidy isn't talking to Mike? What if Cassidy is having a conversation with someone else, with a second spirit? The logbook doesn't just have one person in it, it has two. This was brought to my attention by a comment on YouTube from Inky Ink, who says it's not useful reading the YouTube comments, right? Quote, "I direct you now to pages 89 and 109, where we see a spirit replying to Fated's questions through altering the text existing in the book. Therefore, we know that Fated is not talking to Mike, but talking to Mike's brother, who is also in the logbook. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk." I gotta say, that is the best TED Talk I've ever seen. Definitely beats the one about how to dry your hands using a single paper towel.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
And Inky Ink isn't wrong here either. I went back to double check. One of the things the Fated text says is that the party was for you. And right there on page 89 is the answer, it was for me. A statement and an acknowledgement of that statement. A conversation. Two spirits, one book. Two spirits, one animatronic. For years, I have been frustrated by the fact that the Crying Child, the Bite victim of 83, would have made the most sense to pass into the Golden Freddy body, but it never lined up with the fact that 5 kids died during the missing children's incident, and that one of them would have had to have gone on to possess Golden Freddy. But now we have a solution to both of those things. Golden Freddy can still have the Bite victim in him, one that says, "It's me," when he sees his brother working as a security guard. But it can also have a second spirit in him, one who died in this horrific missing children's incident murder, and one who continues to torment Afton long after he's passed on. And the logbook isn't done. Sure, on those pages we see the responses of, "It was for me," and "I'm scared," but we also see the responses of, "I can hear sounds," and "I can't see." It, once again, is a parallel back to the Andrew and Jake situation, where one spirit can see and maneuver the body, while the other is trapped down below the surface, able to listen, but unable to do much else. This feels like the solution to Golden Freddy that we've been waiting for. The problem with him is that we've always assumed he was just one kid, one spirit who we tried to make fit into all the various details about the lore, but it never quite worked, and that's because it would never work. In reality, you always needed two entities. One, sensitive and kind, a younger brother looking for peace, and one, the victim of a brutal murder, violently eager for revenge. And here's the real twist, my friends, that might not be all. There's one last small detail in the Stitch Raid story that we have to keep an eye on. We learn in that story that Jake and Andrew aren't intentionally murdering people, that when they reach out to touch someone, they accidentally zap them. Jake assumes it's Andrew doing it, but he's wrong. Final quote from the book. "I just want to scare people, okay? The zap is killing them." Well, that wasn't what I wanted. So if what you're doing isn't doing what you want, maybe it's doing something someone else wants. Maybe something else is here with us. You are a hitchhiker on the man who killed you. Why can't someone else hitchhike with us? So it looks like there might be more souls involved when it comes to Golden Freddy, but that's a story for another
that's just
day.
the fact that the other soul is really just William Afton, and the Stitch Wraith is just something to do with Stitch Wraith. It's nothing to do with there being souls, more than 2 souls, but... Okay, so Shadow Victim. Okay, I have Shadow Victim. Evan Afton is basically all this Jedi. So, first is the pretty much easiest. Shadow Freddy. It's just the shadow of Golden Freddy, which I believe that crying child is Golden Freddy. As you saw was a theory previously mentioned, so that is why I think Evan is Shadow Freddy. But what about XOR? Well, that will be on the next slide. Now, for XOR, if Evan was the vengeful spirit, it would make sense that he was XOR, because he would want to make sure that he summons the rest of the characters. Has a similar story, which does involve vengeful victim, because if he was, he would have had to be able to easy connect with Springtrap, and this also connects with the FNAF AR Playground Kids equals Toy Animatronics theory, which the kid who would possess Toy Bonnie possesses Toy Bonnie plush. So that would explain why it looks like Toy Bonnie with a little bit of errors. Henry is the villain. Okay, first and foremost, how are they in the same place at the same time unless Security Puppet is actually an illusion of what is actually a prop or digital thing, but which the only way Henry would have a prop so accurate is if he tried to memorize what Security Puppet looked like to very subtly expose his own actions that he forced William to kill her. Suspicious. The puppet said that she didn't hate William if UCN would be in UCN, which would be odd if William actually wanted to kill her.
I don't hate you, but you need to stay out of my way.
Now, just the design of Security Puppet in general. The faceplates are not just on the Fun Times, they're also on Security Puppet, which is suspicious because Henry would immediately hate the design of the Fun Times after figuring out that William was evil or this suspicious. The reason that he probably figured out William was evil is because the main purpose of Security Puppet is to protect Charlotte. So what if William wasn't evil at all and Henry was deceiving Charlotte? Elizabeth claims that William made Circus Baby just for her, yet William won't let Elizabeth go see her. In Circus Baby's blueprint, it shows that she was made to kill. So why would William make a killing machine just for her when he doesn't want her to die? So what if Henry lied to Elizabeth and said that William made Circus Baby just for her so that, or your father, that would be, so that he could kill Elizabeth to fulfill his deceptive evil plan to take control of Afton, but he needs to have Elizabeth to possess Baby, then eventually kill him. so that he could have his spirit take control of Afton. Yes, I know it makes no, like, seriously, why would he want, like, why would he kill himself though complicated? Have you not read the books? Henry created a murder robot. He created a robot not just to kill him, not like a robot so designed to kill, a robot designed, programmed to grab a knife and stab him. And by the way, the endoskeleton is most likely in the string. Okay. This is relatively quick. This is the timeline for pretty much any story that connects back to the Stichverse. Lonely Freddy, starting in 1983, Lonely Freddy, Room for One More, and Room for One More. In 1985, you have Into the Pit. In the past, and then Into the Pit. The main story of Into the Pit is in 2015. 2051 is The Real Jake. Fetch, 1:35 a.m., Epilogue 3, Epilogue 4, Out of Stock, To Be Beautiful, Epilogue 1, Epilogue 2, Part 1, Epilogue 5, Epilogue 2, Part 2, In the Flesh. And now, 2051 to 2056, The Man in Room 1280, 2056, Epilogue 6, Epilogue 7, Epilogue 8, Epilogue 9, Epilogue 10, Epilogue 11. The New Kid, Count the Ways. Okay, that was quick. This is just to look at all the different glitches. Have all these different glitches. Freddy and Friends. These are all the different glitches. Freddy and Friends, which show them all just destroyed, brutalized. It's just actually just revealing that whole plot of us destroying us, and then this being the staff bots and all that. Okay, so this is a bit of an obscured thing, but this is me just trying to prove that Vanessa isn't Mrs. Afton, isn't Elizabeth, but pointing out something very interesting, but still acknowledging the whole ice cream cone, that whole idea. This is suggesting Elizabeth is Vanessa, but there's an obvious problem with that. Okay, Circus Baby is part of the blob. I guess you can say that it's Scrap Baby, but realistically, you don't care. But most likely she got into regular Circus Baby. I have a solution. It is that Vanessa is actually Mrs. Afton using the story of Elizabeth's death and claims that William manipulated her, which ends up being false according to the CPs.
Hello, Vanessa. How are you feeling today? You look a little tired. Well, it's been a while since we last spoke. How's your anxiety been? You did so well with your calming protocols when we first worked together. Are you still using those? Yes? Okay, good. Well, now I understand there's a new issue. It came on just recently, rather suddenly. Can you tell me about it?
What issue? I've been doing my job. I come in and sit at my desk and do my work.
Yes, of course you do. Your performance reviews are good. But a routine check of your online history has revealed that you spent quite a bit of time with someone in an encrypted conversation. We have transcripts, and I've read them. But it's not clear what you're talking about in these conversations. I can't make sense of it.
Did you say?
True. No, I didn't think so. But your dad.
I'm going to go ahead, jump ahead,
sunny
because I
day.
know it's going to happen at the
Okay,
end.
here we go. I know part of your job requires you to do
I don't know
online
exactly what
searches,
CD was.
but a routine audit of your search history has revealed that you're doing a little private searching on company time. Is that right?
I get breaks.
That's true. So, on your breaks, it looks like you were shopping for a costume. You purchased some fake fur material. What are you going to make? What was that? Did you say the costume is a secret? Why is that?
I can't talk about this. He said he would always be watching. He could be here, or there, or anywhere in between.
Are you talking about your dad? Have those feelings come up again? I hate sounding like a broken record, but this is something you really need to resolve if you're ever going to be happy.
I have! I compartmentalized him. He's locked away.
Excuse me, what?
No, that's not what I mean. You can't just ignore an issue. You have to face your memory of the experiences and process them so you can let it go. So you don't get triggered anymore. You can use a sort of self-dialogue to release these things.
I don't like doing that.
Well, okay. We'll get back to that. I'd really like to know something about this costume. What's it for? I understand you'll be transferring to a different location soon. I'll be sorry to see you go.
7146.
Progress,
Mm.
don't you?
Which one is it? Is it patient 71 or patient 46? Oh, they number 12 is such a troll.
Our sessions don't have to be company mandated. I have all sorts of clients, Vanessa. I don't just work with corporations. I work with individuals and small groups. I even work in schools. I'm wherever I'm needed.
I'm needed somewhere else now. Thank you. When I'm getting to know a new client, I like to start by finding out directly from them what they like to do. How do you spend all the time you have? Nothing. Well, how do you feel about sports? You like sports? Yeah? No? Oh, I get it. You like to watch them, but not play them. You like being inside, don't you? I get that. Lots of weird stuff outdoors, isn't there? Yeah, I understand.
Oh, that's patient 46.
I hate to do this right off the bat, but I've been directed to ask you about this. Apparently, I'm the 4th therapist you've had. And apparently, all 3 of your former therapists have gone missing. Or 2 of them are missing. I don't want to scare you, but I have to tell you that one of them was found dead. That doesn't seem to upset you. Well, then I guess I'll go ahead and tell you that the woman's body was pretty messed up. It looked like it was mangled by machinery.
God.
That doesn't bother you either? It's all pretty strange, I think. I'm not clear on the circumstances. Apparently the police don't have any evidence. How does all of this make you feel? Maybe I should be watching my back. Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? Okay, shall we move on to something lighter? Do you know a place called Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex? I'll take your silence as a yes. And besides, I know you know it, because the technicians who work for Pizzaplex know you. Or rather, I guess it would be better to say that they think they do. They report that they've caught you on camera, or at least it appears to be you. Nothing to say about that? Well, the techs are convinced that you've hacked into their system many times. Although, I'll admit I don't see any proof here. Seems like they have more of a gut feeling than fact. But apparently, the hacks are causing all kinds of problems. You get a kick out of that? The idea of techs running around like chickens with their heads cut off? Yeah, that's a funny image, isn't it? But seriously, I have to say that I think it's weird that you'd spend so much time in such a busy, social place. You seem like more of a loner to me. Lots of time by yourself instead of with friends. Lots of time talking to yourself. Right? Is it the electronics you like? I saw in your file that you have developed software programs that talk to you in repeat phrases. Right? The program asks you questions and prompts you for responses. It's kind of like your own self-therapy, isn't it? Another way of talking to yourself to work things out, right? When I saw some of your recent encrypted conversation logs, that's what I thought I was looking at. It felt like I was watching someone go back and forth in their own head. But the text found something that's different than that. When I read what they found, at first, I thought I was looking at more examples of you just talking with yourself. Then I realized it was different. When I study this, it sounds like there is someone else responding to you. Who is it?
I saw some ink blot test results in your file. I like ink blot tests. You want to do one? Yes? Okay. How about this one? What do you see? What? You want to hold it? Okay.
Okay, so I actually I'll just watch.
Hello, Vanessa. How are you feeling today? You look a little tired.
I'm basically just gonna have her showing up this.
Well, it's been a while since we last spoke. How's your anxiety been? You did
It's full
so
and
well
acknowledged
with
that
your
she's Vanessa in
protocols when we
the first one.
worked together. Are you still using those? Yes? Okay, good. Well, now I understand there's a new issue. It came on just recently, rather suddenly. Can you tell me about it?
What issue? I've been doing my job. I come in and sit at my desk and do my work.
I'll basically
Yes, of course you do. Your performance reviews are good. But a routine check of your online history has revealed that you spent quite a bit of time with someone in an encrypted conversation. We have transcripts, and I've read them. But it's not clear what you're talking about in these conversations. I can't make sense of it. You must be getting something from these that I'm not getting, right? Who are you talking to in these?
No one. Sometimes I talk with Lewis. He's in the marketing department. He's nice, I guess.
Yes, I see Lewis here. But there's someone else. Good morning. Isn't it a pretty day? No. What's the matter? Oh, right. Too bright. I'll pull the shades. Better? When the shade's pulled, it feels like we're in a cubbyhole or a cave? Yeah? So you're not talking to me again today? This isn't all that productive, you know. Don't you think the sessions are more successful when you talk to me? You know, everyone associated with this company gets performance reviews, right? When my sessions don't get results, my reviews aren't very good. If you don't want to talk for your own sake, how about for mine? You don't want me to get in trouble, do you? I could be put in the corner for a timeout. Yeah, you think that's funny, huh? Hi, go ahead. Sit down.
I don't know you. What happened to...
Oh, we'll get to know each other in no time. I've read through all your files, so I feel like we've been talking for weeks. I feel like I know your dad, too. Bill, right? Your dad's name was Bill? I'm sorry, what did you say?
Sorry.
I try to do what I'm supposed to do.
I know you do. Your supervisor notes that you follow instructions perfectly. Your dad made you follow instructions, didn't he? I'm talking about the custody battle between your mum and your dad. Your dad didn't play fair, did he? He used to make your mum look bad in court. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Do you want to talk about how that felt? I suppose I don't need you to tell me it felt bad to have a parent scare you into saying things that weren't true. He manipulated you. It wasn't your fault. It's really sad, but it's common for one parent to use their child to hurt the other parent. I know your mum, after she lost the custody case.
I was supposed to be a good girl.
What happened to her had nothing to do with you, even though it was your testimony that did it. Was that testimony true? No, I didn't think so. But your dad is to blame, not you. You're not going to talk to me? No? What's the problem? Oh, the flowers? Yes, these are particularly fragrant today, aren't they? I'll move them. There. Now, let's see. What are you looking at? You're amazingly alert, aren't you? All right. Well, I'd like to have you tell me about yourself. But I can see that you're not going to do that. Or are you? All right, then. If you aren't going to talk to me, I'll just go by these notes. You just sit there and be comfy. Or not. That chair doesn't really fit you, does it? Well, this won't take long. Let's see. Your previous counselor is no longer available. Does that bother you? No? You don't look surprised to see me sitting here instead of your last therapist. Well, then, let's get to it. I'll admit that some of what's in your file is a little surprising. Overall, you don't come across as a troublemaker, but if you read between the lines, it's clear that you have a little rebellious side, right? And I'm surprised by your knowledge of computers. You're something of a phenom. Do you know what that word means? It means you have unusual skill, like a hacker. I assume you know what a hacker is. Yes? Do you think of yourself as a hacker? Good morning, Vanessa. Let's jump right in, shall we? I got a message last night about you, and I have to be honest. It was upsetting. Apparently, the IT department has put together a pretty lengthy report chronicling non-job related communications that have been coming to your computer. The fact that you're still doing something obviously not work-related on the job is disturbing enough, but what bothers me about what I read is that the messages you're getting seem very manipulative in nature. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I get a lot of messages from friends. I like when Lewis writes to me. He's funny.
I'm not talking about Lewis. You know who I'm talking about. Why won't you open up about it? What you might not know is that this person who's been sending you messages has been hacking into your personal files too. These are the same files I have here. These files are full of details about your life. Do you know what that means?
I'm not in the tech department. I just type on the computers.
I know that. But what matters here is that this person who is contacting you knows a lot about you.
Lots of people know more than I do. Sometimes I need to listen.
Good morning. It's good to meet you. I've read your file, so I'm up to speed on what you and your previous therapists have worked on. Sure, you can have a candy. I'll have one too. You look chill sitting there like that. Not a care in the world, huh? All right. Well, I'd like to start by talking about your parents. What happened to them? And you? It was tragic. But when I looked through the notes, I didn't get a sense that you've processed that emotionally. When I read your account of what happened, it came across as, well, more of an objective rather than a subjective narrative. Oh, sorry. You don't know what that means, do you? What I mean is that the way you told the story is more like you were reading something from a book than you were talking about your own past. That makes me think you've cut yourself off from it. Is that right? Not sure? Well, I see in your file that you spend a lot of time by yourself and are good at self-dialogue. You know what I mean? Asking yourself questions and getting answers. So maybe you should ask yourself how you really feel about your past. Maybe you should give yourself a chance to really look at what happened and let yourself be upset about it, so you can let it go. Hi, Vanessa. Would you like a candy? Butterscotch today.
No, thank you. Those have 35 calories apiece.
Well, they taste good to me. Okay, I thought we could do something today that will help us get to know one another better. It looks like you've never taken an ink blot test, right? No? Okay. Then I'm going to show you some ink blots, like this one. And I want you to tell me the first thing it makes you think of. Here we go. What do you see here?
A treehouse.
It does look sort of like a treehouse, doesn't it? Do you like treehouses?
I like to sit outside and read.
That's good. Now, what about this one?
A beetle.
Really? Looks like a face to me. That's very interesting. Have you thought more about what we talked about? In our last session, you told me you were sad and scared about what happened to you. I suggested you write down exactly what made you so sad and scared. Did you do that? You know, I work with people of all ages, from little kids to the very elderly. Do you keep them the way they are? What are you doing? Oh, you like those? I do too. They smell so sweet, don't they? Apparently, the janitor on this floor has a garden and has been putting bouquets in the offices here for years. Do you ever grow things? No?
I work a lot.
I know you do. Maybe more than you should. More free time would do you good. Do you have a hobby? No? Perhaps we could find one for you, like a sport. No? I have a craft space in my basement. Maybe I could come up with something you could learn to do.
I don't like dark basements.
I'd say make yourself comfortable, but I think you already are. It looks like you could take a nap. That's a nice chair, isn't it? According to these message logs, you've been working pretty late over the last couple of weeks. Or not working. Well, I can't blame you for looking out the window instead of listening to me. It's a gorgeous day, isn't it?
I like the blue sky.
So do I. Now, let's see what we can get done on this nice sunny day. Okay, here we go. I know part of your job requires you to do online searches, but a routine audit of your search history has revealed that you're doing a little private searching on company time. Is that right?
I get breaks.
That's true. So, on your breaks, it looks like you were shopping for a costume. You purchased some fake I'd really like to know something about this costume. What's it for? And you'll be transferring to a different location soon. I'll be sorry to see you go. I think we've been making progress. Don't you? You can request to come back and speak with me more on your own time, though. Did you know that? Our sessions don't have to be company mandated. I have all sorts of clients, Vanessa. I don't just work with corporations. I work with individuals and small groups. I even work in schools. I'm wherever I'm needed. I'm needed somewhere else now. Thank you.
When I'm getting to know a new client, I like to start by finding out directly from them what they like to do. How do you spend all the time you have? Nothing. Well, how do you feel about sports?
Okay, so I think apparently the exact CD, I'm not sure where to find it. I'm gonna go look for it maybe in another video, but that will be much, much shorter. So, bye.